Greetings, Dapplings, and welcome back to, probably sooner than expected, an extended first taste of Captain of Industry. It does appear that the Dapplings were rather enamored by this game, and more than a few of you let me know in the comments that you would like to see what more this game has to offer. So here we are to showcase a little bit more of this. I can't say I'm too surprised that Dapplings have rather refined tastes when it comes to games and the content that they choose to consume, though I may be a little bit biased in saying that, considering that you choose to watch a lot of me. Nevertheless, I'm very glad that you're as interested in the game as I am, so here we are. Now, the first thing that we're going to do to address a couple of little niggles at the end of the last episode. First and foremost, I was a massive derp, but I set this up to contain wood. We're just going to quickly unset that by telling them to empty it out as soon as possible. I'm actually going to straight up say remove this the items in here by clicking on that little trash can there. My trucks are going to actively and rather aggressively try to dump all of the wood out of there somewhere else. They're not just going to get rid of it. You can do that if you want to, though. But I would like this to be for construction materials so that we can actually stockpile a decent amount so we can get a couple of big buildings up and running. The next thing that I'd like to address, now this is something that I discovered whilst playing on my solo game. Whilst the information on transports does specifically mention that trucks can go under any transports that are height 2 or higher. However, other vehicles such as excavators cannot go under a transport. In order to let them pass transports, you can build a vehicle ramp. It appears that this is very specifically about conveyor belts and not pipes. So, for those of you who were a little bit concerned, and quite rightly pointed out, hey, Aavak, you know how you said that excavators can't go under pipes? Well, you're going to try and cut off the excavators getting out of here. They're not going to have anywhere to go that isn't under pipes. A, quite right, that was very silly of me. But B, apparently I am saved by my own misunderstanding of the game docs. Apparently they can go under pipes, though I'm not exactly sure on what height they have to be at, but since this is a max height pipe, that will probably be okay, so we should be alright. Nevertheless, there are actually a couple of ways that I could have solved that, and just since it was mentioned, here's the ways that I can easily think of resolving this. One, don't connect this up with pipes, allow the excavators to go around. The trucks will then take on the duty of moving water from here over to the storage depot over here, which we're going to set up for water and say to keep full, so that way whenever there's water in there, it isn't taken away for other industrial uses. But they can also take it direct from here to the water facility, which will allow... what fantastic timing! St. Algorithmus is clearly pleased with the amount of attention you showed this video. He has blessed us with rain at exactly the right moment to demonstrate something. Thank you very much, St. Algorithmus. Truly, we are blessed. Nevertheless, the trucks will probably be able to rush over here in just a moment and start loading up, much like they can move crude oil or fuel around, depending on what they need to do. They can move pretty much any liquid, and they can take it directly to the water facility if they need to. And it looks like that's exactly what we've got going on here. So let's have a proper watch of this. Are you going over here? We've only got 8 in there. No, you're going a little bit further. We've got 9 in here. Are you going all the way? Okay, fair enough. You're taking from the last bit. Now, how much can you carry at once? You've only loaded up 5. Still, the trucks will not make multiple stops. And honestly, that is one of the biggest inefficiencies with trucks. And why using conveyors and pipes are better, because a truck will go there, and if there's just 5 in this building, they'll grab 5. Even if there's 5 in all of the others and they could get closer to a full load, they won't. They'll make an entire single trip just for that 5 water, and they will use up all of that fuel doing it. But as you can see, they will move it around themselves. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is building the aforementioned vehicle ramp. We would lower this pipe network down and then build a vehicle ramp, and then the excavator could cross it. Option 3, and personally, my favourite option, and what I was going to do until I noticed the discrepancy in excavators being able to go under pipes, is to simply make use of one of the awesome mechanics in this game, and that is to change the land. We will bend nature to our will. There we go. This will now be filled in until there's a passable terrain around the side there. Now that would potentially be a bit of an issue over here because our trucks are trying to build this ramp. So I'm just going to take that away for the next little while. The slag from our iron foundry, our blast furnace, will be used to build out a path down there. Now, we're not really going to be making use of that in this instance, but still, I did want to cover that one, as it was a genuinely good suggestion and well pointed out, and also it gave us an option to discover a couple of the ways that we could fix an oversight like that. Now, with all of that said and done, it is time for us to get on with a couple of other things out and about. We're going to need another excavator. As we left off in the last episode, we're actually in a fairly good place. We're producing iron. We've got a stockpile, small though it may be, of construction components. The next thing that we need to make more sustainable, we've got water, we've got food, etc., etc. We don't have maintenance. We are still relying on copper plates that are brought by refugees. So let's go ahead and build up a new mine control tower. And as always, we want to check where we're going to be placing this. I don't want to place it on the top of any mineral vein. Doesn't matter on the water table. We can just build a ground pump pretty much anywhere there, and it's much like the pumps for crude oil. It'll take care of itself. That will do there. We're just going to be hitting the exposed surface veins here. So let's go ahead and set that up. There we are. And once we've got an excavator, we'll be able to get to work on this. Now, let's just designate an area to be mined reasonably large. We'll fine-tune it later on. There we go. And there as well. Perfect. That will give us more than enough copper for quite some time, I should imagine. Now, the question about logistics starts to become increasingly more important as the distances the trucks are going to have to travel grow. Any truck carrying a cargo of copper from over here is going to have a heck of a long way to travel if we build our smelting down here. But I do like the idea of building the smelting here, because one way or another, we're going to have to be moving product around. So if a product is made of many, many small things, and then it gets condensed down, it's probably better to build that item closer to the source. So let's have a quick look at the recipe over here. 9 copper ore makes 8 molten copper, and 8 molten copper makes 8 impure copper. So there's very little saving there. We would also need to carry the coal up there. We'd need to carry the slag away from there, whereas currently we already have the infrastructure for all of that down here, so it does make a little bit more sense for us to build the copper smelting over here. Now, that might change in the future, but right now we're going to do it this way. If, for example, it was a 2-to-1 on copper ore into actual copper, it would make more sense to refine the copper at site and then move the copper plates, because we'd be able to move more bulk of product in its condensed form. And then we could just move the copper plates to wherever they need to be used, which will currently just be here. So we'll set that one up ready. So while all of that is going together, and indeed whilst the excavator is being made, sadly the iron is going to be the real problem there. Looking at our Unity, since we've now expanded out the services that we're providing our people, we're getting more Unity as a result. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unpause the beacon. And honestly, we're actually still doing quite well with the Unity. So perhaps we could look in at a couple of other things. There's a bunch of places that we could use Unity just to eke out a little bit more oomph from our populace. But I'm actually going to say, sure, let's just get our research done a little bit faster. You don't want to allow Unity to accrue up towards 25, because that's where you're going to start wasting the Unity. But now that I've activated the beacon, there is one other thing I'm going to need to do, and that is going to need to expand out the housing that we have available to our population, because we're going to start growing it. Now, this is going to do 2 things that are going to help us. 1, it's going to burn off the Unity. 2, it will result in more copper plates, more rubber, more iron plates and diesel being delivered to the dock from any refugees that manage to see the beacon and sail their way over here. Right, let's go ahead and start building out the infrastructure for our copper mining, because we're going to soon need that set up. So let's go back to metallurgy. Now, one thing that we could do, and something I haven't actually done, I could try. Can I grab the whole thing? Okay, well, that's not as useful, I'm going to be honest, but to be fair, it will allow me to rapidly set up an area. But I was really hoping that I could basically blueprint a whole area. But you know what? Just grabbing a single building is still quite useful to me. We're not going to have to clone this, and honestly, we can use the pipe section to just run in over here, so that will work out quite nicely for me. As for research, now that we've got this active, I would very much like to get the fuel station. Unfortunately, almost everything we need right now is going to require advanced construction parts. We don't have those. So in a little while, our research is actually going to come to a stop, and there's not a whole lot that we're going to be able to do about that one. But for now, let's go ahead and hook all of this up. So we're going to want, well, actually, do we want it that close? No, I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to build it a little bit further away. And that is because I may well want some additional infrastructure in between these. For example, some storage for copper ore and coal later on, and indeed iron ore. So let's give them a nice wide berth there. With that, though, we now need to hook this up. And since we want to get over here, let's bring it out by 2. Then up, all the way to its highest point. And then just line it up if we can. Is that more or less lined up? No. 1, 2, far. There we go. And we can just bring that all the way across and then have that go down. All the way down. There we go. That will allow us to vent the exhaust from the copper smelter. Set up the copper ore there. Next up, we are going to want to go for the metal casters. And again, I think it's probably fine for us to just squeeze these just a little bit further ahead. That shouldn't be too much of a problem for us. About here will do, and we will immediately build the second one because we know that one blast furnace running it even close to maximum capacity will overwhelm one. So we may as well plan for the future, even if we're not there quite yet. And we'll build off from that all the way up there. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not making use of the second output there, is because I would like to eventually set up some additional metal casters and actually have some additional blast furnaces all kind of feeding into the same thing. And I think it will give us a little bit more flexibility in how we plan things if I leave that one free for the time being. Now, both of these will start to accumulate slag fairly quickly, but that's a bridge we're going to have to cross when we come to it. Now then, all is waiting on delivery of iron. Now, you may have noticed here and there that there was a little bit of a timer over here, 0 seconds in queue right now. From what I can tell, my two guesses are this is a reflection of either the average or the longest wait time. I'm leaning towards the longest wait time because it doesn't kind of have the smooth rise and fall that you'd expect from something that was being averaged. I've seen this go as high as 20 and then drop straight back to 0, so that does suggest to me that this is literally, there is a job there and it has been waiting 20 seconds for a truck to respond to the request. That is only going to get worse as our demand on vehicles increases. That's why I think we probably should slide in a couple of extra trucks here. You'll notice that it's immediately updating the maximum, or rather the current vehicles versus the maximum over there. Furthermore, and as much as this is going to hurt a little bit in the short term, actually, let's just see how many are available to assign. We've only got 4 available to assign. Right, I don't need 2 trucks on tree harvesting. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to shift one of them over to the iron mine. Because as you can see, the excavator is spending a lot of time just doing nothing at all. Just waiting for a truck to come back from its long journey. If we have 2, it's literally just going to double the throughput of our iron initially. Eventually, we do want to rely much more on conveyors so that we don't have to keep adding more and more trucks. Because conveyors, as far as I'm aware, don't require maintenance directly. They do require some, reasonable investment of resources. For example, rubber, which we currently don't make, but eventually we will be able to. But for now, we are going to have to rely fairly heavily on trucks. So with that, we're going to pass a little bit of time until we've got copper mining up and running. So see you in a few seconds. Okay, we have got our newest excavator, and work is already beginning on the new trucks that we're going to use, one for said excavator and the others to just remove some of the pressure on our logistics network as is. And we are almost done with setting up all of our smelting as well, which is actually quite amazing. There is no particular need to disable these. The trucks can't move molten metal, or at least I certainly hope they can't. So by and large, this will just smelt, or rather cast whatever molten metal is sent to them, but I do like to be a little bit more specific about that where I can. With this, we're also going to pop down a quick, actually rotate that the other way, a quick storage for copper, in much the same way that we've got the storage for iron over there. I would like the copper to be centralized and gathered for us. It'll make it a little bit easier for us in the future. Now, with that done, we've already completed irrigated farms. Fantastic. Whilst you were away, I was not idle, and I continued to do quite a lot of research. Let's actually have a quick peek at that. At this point, we've got everything down this column. So ramps for vehicles, conveyor belts, ship dock repair, fuel station, irrigated farms. At this point, I'm actually going to grab transport balancing. None of this can we build, not even a single one, because we do need advanced construction. And our research is greatly exceeding our capacity to actually build the things that we're unlocking through research. And that's going to be the way for a little while longer. Now, one of the things I can do to help with the current stress on our logistics infrastructure is to quickly pop down the piping that we were speaking of before. How is this coming along? Well, they're actually doing some pretty good work down here. It's not going to be long at all before that's completely passable. Right, well, let's bring this out and down all the way and hook that up to... is this going to line up? Oh, it does line up. That is almost like I planned it. Maybe I did. I don't actually remember. Either way, I'm very, very pleased that it did work out. It's almost as good as... getting an infusion of dopamine from a good sermon. Almost. Nothing quite manages to meet that rush, but this is a close second. Let's go ahead and just make sure that that's actually connected up. Sometimes it's a bit finicky. If I were to place this there, I have found that you can never really quite connect it, so the best thing to do is just delete that original block and then just replace it down. Otherwise, you're just going to be wrestling with it for no particularly good reason. But there we go. We've got copper up and running, and slowly but surely we're going to start to accrue impure copper, and that is going to mean that slowly and surely we're going to start being able to transition across. We are actually starting to use a decent amount of maintenance each month at this point, which is a little bit of a concern. Oh wow, 72 seconds in the queue. Oh, that's rather awful. Let's hope that can improve reasonably soon. Let's speed things up a little bit and just see how long that takes. Okay, there we go. It got fixed. Yikes. That was a little bit of a worry there, though. Once this pipe is up and running, then our vehicles are going to stop having to be hassled with moving around water from the various rainwater collectors, and that will greatly improve things. Generally speaking, once you've got any kind of transport network, and that includes pipes from what I've seen, hooked up to something, trucks will stop trying to service that building. Once you've shown that you've got any kind of alternative transport method available, they will focus their efforts elsewhere, places that don't have that kind of infrastructure. That being said, I do believe you can override that default behavior by using the empty settings, so on and so forth, and to reasonably good effect, to be fair. I do find that you don't have to struggle against the game much in regards to getting trucks to do what you want. It's a bit of a learning curve to work out how they're going to perceive the orders, but once you've got that down, it actually is quite flexible. I'm very happy with the way the logistics works. Well, the next thing we're going to need in our journey towards getting all of the new spangly stuff that we're unlocking via research is an electric assembly, which could make the basic construction construction materials a little bit faster, but only by a little bit, and there's no difference in the recipe, but it can make the tier 2 construction materials. We're going to need a concrete mixer for that, though, and that is going to require some sand. So that is what we're going to be looking at in just a moment. Let's grab the captain's office next. Keep research always on the go whilst we've got the Unity for it. There's no reason not to. And we will then pop down a new mine control tower, not a mind control tower. I don't know what kind of Let's Play you think this is, people in the comments, but Dark Aavak is not awake. He hasn't had any coffee. We are not starting any kind of psychic bid for world domination yet. I make no promises for the future, you know. If you suddenly start hearing your wish is my command as your command is my wish, you have my permission to start worrying. You cannot worry until I give you that permission. Oh, maybe it's already begun. We'll have to think about that a little bit more. Either way, we've got some more people popping in here and there, and our population is continuing to expand. Very, very nice. And we are almost done with a new truck. Just in time to need a new excavator, sadly. This is going to be a common problem. Additionally, our one diesel generator is actually starting to meet its limit here. So I think it probably would be wise for us to pop down another diesel generator right there. Let's go ahead and hook all of these up. And that should keep things going for us for a little whiles. At maximum output, we'll use one fuel every 10 seconds. But right now our utilization is fluctuating reasonably aggressively. We can, of course, change that using Unity. If we decide to give a booster, for example, over here, if we wanted to, then we would drop quite a large amount of electricity being used. We would be able to move away from. We'd be able to select buildings based on their energy requirement rather than the things that they're producing. It just so happens that maintenance is always a good choice, in my opinion. Right, now for this mine, let's prep the actual mine area. I find that it's just always useful to grab the surface deposits before you even start thinking about digging a big mine. That being said, it's undeniably fun to dig the big mines, but this saves so much more time. Right, Captain's office is complete. We will have access to edicts, and the first ship weapons can now be researched as well. I've no idea about what is going to be required to build the ship weapons. I haven't gotten to that point, even in my off-camera runs, but I have encountered pirates. So for those of you who were very excited by the thumbnail having a battleship on it and had asked in the comments, are there going to be those kinds of shenanigans? Yes, absolutely, and we will try to test them out sooner rather than later in this Let's Play, if indeed it becomes one. But let's be honest, if we see an equivalent interest on the second video as we saw on the first, then I think this is going to probably become a staple for the channel. Let's keep our fingers crossed and St. Algorithmus appeased, shall we? Warning, low diesel. That is a concern. Why is that? Ooh, yeah, we've used up quite a lot there. Okay, that's probably a lot of... this is why. We just dumped 20 of it into the diesel generator. That's perfectly fine. That one's not even being utilized at all yet, so it's not actually using that up, so we're not going to be constantly dumping that in. It looks like a lot of things just came for a refuel as well. So it is alarming to see that warning pop up at all, but it's not something we need to worry about just yet. Let's go ahead and get an excavator and a truck over here, though. That will be fantastic. How are we going down here? Because eventually, once this is filled out, I am going to need to allow them to start dumping there as well, because a lot of my trucks will just stop doing any work once they can't get rid of the slag. All of the blast furnaces will basically come to a complete grinding halt. That was actually a very nice contribution to the colony there by the refugees. Thank you very much indeed. Right, how are we doing? We've actually got a nice surplus of copper plates. We've got no surplus of iron plates, but that is completely understandable. We have been building a stupid amount of vehicles lately. We've got a reasonable surplus of construction materials, so we're going to go ahead and set those up to be stored for now. Right, now that we've actually got access to sand, it is time for us to make the next building in the queue, and that is a concrete mixer. Now, a concrete mixer needs water, needs sand, and will produce concrete, which will then be used by an enhanced, or rather an electric assembly, to make the aforementioned advanced construction components. How are we going to place this? This is a reasonably good question. I think what we're going to do is... what we want to work out is where we're going to put the water. Now, I happen to know that irrigated farms will have the access port for the water and fertilizer at the back. So let's plan this out, shall we? Let's pop down a couple of rainwater collectors. I'm going to want these, first and foremost, to be delivered to the farms themselves. Now, we're going to need a decent amount of them for 3 farms. So let's just plan with that in mind and place down... we'll go with 4 for now, but with plenty of room for expansion. I am then going to want a dedicated storage for water for the farms and for nothing else. This water should not be used for any industrial application. So I can have this by here, for example, and then we can just have the water then kind of swing back up and around and along the back there. I'll pop that one here, and then I will have one for industrial applications right here, and I think this will work out well for us. Let's pop that one about there. There we go. With that in mind, I may actually move this one across a little bit just to make it a little bit neater for us as well. Let's pop this one just about here. There we go. Gives us a nice bit of room to drive around it all. Right, let's lay down the piping all the way down. We'll run it just along the rainwater collectors and to here where it will split off in either direction. There we go. This one will be for our industrial applications. I am not going to say that that one needs to be filled. This one, however, will be. So once there is water in it, no truck will try to take it out. This one is already set up like that, so no truck will try to take water away from there. This way, we will have everything available that we're going to need for the more important resource, and that is our people. We don't want them... oh, that was not quite where I wanted to put it. We don't want them starving, because that is a rather permanent situation, whereas us running out of concrete, it's a temporary one. We'll eventually be able to fix that up. There we go. And until we've researched necromancy, we can't really fix the dead colonists. Ship weapons. Unlocked. Okay, the final thing that we're going to research is the Research Lab 2, but we are, again, without the advanced construction components, going to be completely unable to build it. So once that is the case, I will simply pause my research labs completely, and we will stop worrying about those for the time being. Okay, we've got the infrastructure ready for our industrial expansion. I'm also currently expanding out our population room. Our housing, as such that it is. I've currently paused beacons because we're at full population and any homelessness has an enormous Unity penalty. That being said, our Unity right now is actually pretty good, so we can probably afford to plonk down a couple of boosts here and there just to make sure that we're not hitting the Unity cap. The Unity cap will adjust by each kind of housing district you build. So currently our cap is 30. But we definitely want to pull it down a little bit more than this. How about we go ahead and add in a boost to all of these? There we go. And, well, now we've got a bit of room, I suppose well, no, we don't need anyone else. We've got 112 workers available. Let's just pop down Unity hither and yon to see that everything is being... oh, Unity the smokestack? No. Let's pop it there. There we go. Boosts on everything. That'll carry us for a little while. Okay, so... how are we going to set up our construction area? It's at this point, now that we're going to have conveyors in our very near future, it's time to start considering redesigning some of the industry that we've already placed down. And you're going to probably go through this process several times. But it's at this point that we can probably cut out the majority of the truck work in building our construction components. All of them, Tier 1 and Tier 2. So with that in mind, let's start out... I don't think we're going to need too much room for expansion here. But let's start out with simply moving it around and we'll have our construction going on around about here. Let's pop these down, something like this, perhaps. And since regular construction materials are going to be used extensively for quite some time, I'm going to stick with having 2 of these. However, I'm going to make them a dedicated area for storage. Let's pop the storage we could easily have this over here, for example, one there and one here, one for wood and one for iron. Let's pop these in. Now, later on, there will be other recipes that you can have, and that's a theme throughout the game. You will constantly find new, more efficient ways of building stuff. For example, our reliance on wood is actually quite a problem because, you know, there are only so many trees on the island, and right now we're actually not needing too many, but as our industry scales up, we're going to continually need more. So eventually we're going to want to find a replacement for wood. Growing trees, I mean, while it's a beautiful idea in a lot of games, just the time scale makes it completely impractical. So what we're going to need to do is find a specific material that can replace wood altogether that we can manufacture on a decent scale. Now, with that all done, how many have we got over there? Not too many, but I think it's time for us to break that down. That'll give us a couple of extra bits and bobs. Now, we are going to want to build our area in parallel. And what I mean by that is with any manufactured material that you use that can then be an ingredient in another process. So, for example, you can make, or rather you have to make, construction parts 2 out of construction parts 1. You've got to ask yourself, do I want all of my construction parts basically funneled into that new product, and then I only accrue the original if the new product is backlogged, or rather is backstuffed? And the answer to that is no. We're going to need both of these in parallel, mostly. So what we're going to do, it's going to get a little bit tight over there, so let's have the outputs over on this side instead. We're going to have one potential output for construction parts 1, and then we're going to use a splitter, a balancer here, to split between the storage and the factories. Now, initially I'm only going to build an assembly electric, just one of them, because we're going to need a lot more production before we can realistically run 2 of these in tandem. We've also got to think about the concrete mixer. Now, the concrete mixer is a new component. So we've got the initial components of construction parts 1. How do we want to introduce the concrete into this equation? Because we also want to store that if we can. So let's go ahead and place this down about here, I would say. It's not going to be particularly space efficient, but that's fine for the time being. We will also add in a loose silo so that we can stock up on the sand and then ferry that where it's needed. We'll pop that about there, just line them up if I can, just because it looks nice. And then we're also going to want another warehouse just around about here. Now, I could stack all of these warehouses together, so collecting anything is nice and easy. And there's definitely something to be said about that, because I'm going to be wasting a lot of space in between things. Whereas I could just have conveyors. It'll be a little bit more conveyor spaghetti to make it more compact. But right now, whilst I'm showcasing how to set it all up, I'm going to go for a more open design, let's say. Finally, we want the electric assembly, and it has to be an electric one here. And then one more storage for that as well. We'll pop that one down about there. There we go. All lovely. Right, we want this one to contain sand, and I want it to keep full. Once the sand has been brought here, I don't want to be taken away. Over here, we are going to have construction parts. However, I'm going to want that one to be emptied out. I don't really want them to be stockpiling these. It's just if we are splitting them evenly, once this has got a conveyor running into it, it won't allow trucks to deliver them. So I can say, yeah, empty this out as fast as you can. Basically, I just want to, if I'm building a large project and it's got a massive amount of materials needed, I might want to have my trucks preload that area so that the building can be a little bit faster later on. And in that case, I don't want this to take priority on just basically holding on to the material. Any output warehouse, by and large, I'm going to want to have an empty order on it. Just so the trucks know, look, if it's here, it's to be used. Don't just let it sit there for no apparent reason. Right, with that, we're going to have a fair bit of time needed for all of this to be built, because, sadly, almost all of this is going to take a lot of construction materials, and we don't have a lot of those yet. But that being said, we can at least start setting up the pipe work for the water. Now that's going to be a little bit of a potch, but thankfully we shouldn't struggle too much. Let's take this up. You know what? Let's only take it up one level. Let's not be silly about it. We don't need it to be much higher than that. However, out here maybe we will bring it up a little bit more. Let's try to line these up. I think about there should do. There we go. And then we'll take it all the way up so that if there are any trucks that want to pass underneath, they can easily enough. There we go. We'll bring it down about here. Perfect. That will be wonderful. Right, there we go. We are now able to start producing concrete, and we'll start hopefully making that ahead of time. Finally, the sand that we've been excavating has a use. How are we doing over here? Our one truck is probably starting to struggle a little bit, if I'm perfectly honest. How about we give you a friend? We've got 6 trucks, and I can see that a couple of them are idle, so I'm going to assign another truck to our coal excavation, since we are going to be using that in large amounts. So with that, I think we're going to have to pass a little bit more time, allow all of these to be built, and once we are actually producing construction parts 2, I shall bring you back for the final part, which is the automation through transport. So see you in a few seconds. And with that, we have finished our construction parts 2 factory. Okay, now everything is moving, well, somewhat smoothly at the moment. We've completely moved our manufacturing down here for actual construction parts. So, with this up and running, as soon as it gets its first delivery of concrete, and which we've got in large supply here, you'll notice that they're not actually storing, the trucks aren't trying to store anything in these storage units, because I've designated the storage units to be emptied, not filled. And until we've got transports taking things into these storage units, they won't have any ability to stockpile resources beyond what the manufacturer can stockpile, which, to be fair, isn't a small amount. You know, they can actually hold a decent amount in there. We've already moved 40 concrete slabs over, and now we have moved over we moved over 9 parts there. We're moving over a further 8. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to get 8 construction parts 2 out of that. Now then, first and foremost over here, we're going to want a flat balancer. Let's make sure the arrows are pointing the right way, and we'll pop this one about there. We are going to want flat conveyors. Now, it doesn't say anything about power here, but these require energy. So this isn't like Factorio, where you can just belt everything across the entire planet. You need to consider your want for complete automation, free of the logistics of your vehicles and their fuel consumption and maintenance, and the power production of your colony. You can't just have conveyor belts everywhere. I don't believe there's any kind of unpowered conveyor belt. There is the molten channel, and that just uses gravity. I believe the U-shaped conveyor, much like the flat conveyor, these are both powered. You don't have any kind of chutes like you do in Factory Town, for example. Right, let's get that over here, and we're going to bring this up as well and have both of these feed in there. And once that is through, we will have these rotate around and down, and there we go. This one will go all the way on and connect straight up down there. Now, I want these to be built rather quickly, but this is a reasonable amount worth of construction parts to build, so we're not going to get it done super fast. That is an entire 2 cycles of this just to build that one conveyor there, and that much the same. But we should see these going up fairly soon. We've already got 8 there, we're making another 4, and we've got enough to make another 8. So overall, this shouldn't be too long for us to see coming to fruition. Let's get the building work going right now. We've already got another couple in there. Fantastic. Let's store these down. And we will see that this takes 2 kilowatts. This one conveyor right there takes 2 kilowatts. It has a throughput which you can improve over time. And it isn't just a flat a conveyor requires this much power. The length has an impact as well, as you would imagine. As I've mentioned in the first stage video, this is a much more realistic take on the factory complex kind of genre of games. That one's going to take 3 kilowatts, and finally, this will take 5 kilowatts. Now, we don't have any indication yet of which side is X and which side is O, but basically, one side will be marked with X's, one side will be marked with O's, and that is what it's talking about here. Prioritizing incoming or outgoing from the slots marked X or O. You can use this to toggle whether it's prioritizing the O's or the X's. A bit of a game of noughts and crosses going on there. Right, let's get you in there. Fantastic. Right, let's see. Okay, so we want to prioritize... well, actually, you know what? We don't want to prioritize at all here. We want it to just be flat split between the two. I don't want to give priority to one or t'other. If I was going to prioritize either, though, it would probably be the construction parts storage rather than the assembly. Just to make sure I've always got construction parts, because as far as I've seen, even in mid-game, you are using enormous amounts of basic construction parts. But now that that's all done, we should see this starting to run in a bit more of an automated way. We've already got all of the construction parts flowing through. This is fantastic. Right, the next job for us then is to build up a conveyor belt for the sand. Now this one's going to need a U-shaped conveyor because this is loose. So we'll bring that down here, just up and over, and down on the other side. There we go. That would be fairly easy to set up, I should imagine. But we're going to want another flat balancer, and we'll place this one right here. And this, because it's a finished product, will be a we'll need a flat conveyor, not a U-shaped conveyor. And that can go straight down, and this can go straight up. There we go. Once all of that is done, then delivering all of the required materials to the assembly electric will be managed automatically, but the final part of the job is, of course, getting the construction 2 parts down there. Let's speed things up again. This shouldn't take long at all, especially as more and more parts become automated. Now that we have that in place, we should see that sand deliveries, ideally... Oh, drat, the conveyor's just left. That sand deliveries should start going here rather than to the factory itself. Oh, no, it's still going to the factory. Now, this will happen sometimes because it has to have had a delivery of something first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this building for the time being. The next sand delivery will only have one place to go, so it'll go in there, and then it'll be conveyed into the concrete mixer. In effect... Until a factory has received at least one shipment or has dispatched one shipment of something via a conveyor, trucks can still consider it a valid input or a valid output point. But once it's received even a single delivery, that's it. Trucks will never try to take from or deliver that product to that factory again. As far as concrete goes, I think we're probably still allowing trucks to deliver concrete here. But in terms of the construction materials, no, they will now only ever be delivered down here and picked up from this point. As far as the regular construction materials, they will only ever be picked up from here, and they won't be delivered over here again because we've managed to send at least one delivery down there. Now, when is that sand delivery going to come over here? Let's have a quick look. Is that you? Yes, it is. Fantastic. Let's watch you deliver. There we go. And at this point, I can unpause production. And the moment the first pile of sand enters the mixer, that's it. We have now locked that in. Okay, we are now automatically producing our first construction parts too. And in fact, this is the first part of the factory that is, well, what I would consider truly automatic. Now, there is one last part that we can do, actually. I completely missed this bit out. But we can quickly set this up so that wood and iron are delivered automatically down here as well. Let's go for this all the way down, and the same there all the way down, and then for the iron, honestly, we might as well just rise up by one. I mean, we strictly don't need to at this point, but sure, we'll do it. And down. There we go. And over here as well. Up and down. There we go. That will make all of this easy. The only places now that trucks are going to be involved in this process, delivering sand to the loose storage, delivering wood and iron to the storage units, and picking up construction parts, concrete slabs, and construction parts too. That is fantastic. That will have taken a reasonable amount of strain off our trucks, actually, considering a decent amount of their time was being spent delivering components just to the construction parts factory and then picking up the construction parts at the end. Now we've reduced that to single points of delivery for both factories. So instead of just popping to one factory, picking up 4 construction parts while the other one had 4 available and then just making a trip with 4 construction parts, only to have to come back and pick up the other 4 and so on and so forth, they will all be centralized now. So a single truck is much more likely to be able to pick a full load of construction parts in one place. And likewise, it's only got one place to deliver wood, one place to deliver iron parts, and that will satisfy both factories. And in fact, for the most part, the entire chain as well. We're going to want to do something similar over here for our maintenance factory, and that is with copper plates and iron. And you know what? Sure, now we've actually got it all set up properly. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's pop this there and this down here. Once again, we are going to want iron plates over here. We'll set that up at the basic. We want impure copper over here. Set that one up to keep full as well, since we are actually producing our own copper. There's no reason not to. Now, with this in place, we could look at building a second maintenance depot. I am going to avoid doing that for now, because currently... yeah, currently we're producing more than enough. We've still got like 40 maintenance room to spare, if you like. So we'll just have this sweep down there, but I will preempt the need to have this, rise up and swoop back around in this direction. Let's go there. Bring it down, and there we go. Because the next maintenance depot we could build over there, and I'll just continue this pattern in that direction. Or alternatively, I could have it over here as well. It'll be easy enough to do. But at this point now, we're going to have maintenance being automatically, or at least a little bit more automatically managed. We'll be able to put some large stockpiles of materials in these warehouses, and so our trucks are going to have to make journeys far less frequently. And with that, and all of the possibilities this now opens up, I think we're going to have to wrap up this episode there, as we have run out of time. In the next episode, should there be one, again, do let me know in the comments if you're interested in more. We'll probably be looking to upgrade our farms to irrigated farms, setting up an actual fuel depot, and with that, we'll probably kickstart research again by upgrading these to Research Lab 2s and starting down the route of, let's have a look where we would like to be. Probably towards power generation using steam boilers, honestly. Additionally, we could use advanced diesel. Those of you who are familiar with Factorio will immediately appreciate the advantages involved in upgrading our diesel production, because right now we are doing it in the most brute force and inefficient way we possibly can. And also, this is just really fun to set up. There are so many buildings that can start working together. But that will all be for a future episode. Do let me know down in the comments if you have enjoyed this one and if you would like to see another. But until then, and as always, do take care, everyone.